Are we live yet, ladies and gentlemen? We are live once again. How about that? As if by magic, this is your somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman, coming to you from our secret, undisclosed location on Newport Harbor here in Newport Beach, California. And we hope everybody's doing well on this really nice Wednesday, August 26th, 2026. And if you're in Southern California, we hope you're managing to stay cool. If you're in the heat, spend time. If you're in the hot weather and there's no other recourse, remember Al Bundy from Married with Children. Al moved the kids into the frozen food section, and hilarity ensued. But they are really good places to get cool. So don't be bashful. And the grocery stores know they know what's going on. They're really glad to use it to help with the situation. And let's see, guys. First I want to start today with a couple of shout outs. I'll do the easy one first. Shout out to Shirley's Bagels on 17th Street. I had a pumpernickel bagel, double toasted, with lox and cream cheese spread, and it was so good. I mean, it was, Shirley's really have the best bagels, at least locally. And I don't, I could fill price like anybody else, but God, it was good. So if you want a good bagel, Shirley's on 17th Street in Costa Mesa. There's probably another one or two. I have no idea where they are, but don't give it a second's thought. They are really, really, really great bagels. And the second thing second shout out I want to give today is to David Petty. And David is running for the a seat on the Moulton Newgale uh, Water District Board. And but David is not a run of the mill kind of candidate. I know he has two candidates lined up against him that have both had governmental experience. But I'm going to tell you, one of them may even have been on the board at one point. But I'm going to tell you something. These days and times call for different times call for different measures, and it just so happens as though David Petty has a cybersecurity background at a time when our infrastructure is being targeted daily. I mean, water districts get hit daily. This is a huge deal, and it's not going to get any easier. Matter of fact, it could the water the hacking could come from Russia, could come from China, could come from some kid in Irvine. There's just no telling. And Tom Friedman made this point the other day. And the big powers or major powers have learned how to kind of go small. Like, even though it's the big, monster that it is, defanged monster that it is, America's got the ability to send a missile on a course and wind up through a particular window and hit a particular thing. So that's really, really micro. And I mean, that's not like blowing up Nagasaki or Hiroshima. This is a really, really narrow targeted strike. But then Friedman goes on to make the point that, because the strike is that small, it could come from a kid in his bedroom in Indiana, in New York, in California, just, how about Colorado? Colorado always seems like a hotbed for the, the wild student stuff. And, as I kind of enjoy breaking into the broadcast here. I have the American flag in the background, and I'm going to tell you, I have never felt sadder as an American than to watch America in its current state. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got some basic grasp on world markets and finances and politics and all that, and I'm thinking to myself, everything is really bad. Scott Bessent's deal with the bonds, that was just, I mean, it was theatrics. It's all it was theatrics. He could never buy enough bonds to stop the selling. And the truth of the matter is, his boss created more doubt in the bond market than anybody else with his big, beautiful bill. I mean, I hope that the irony in that just never escapes me. And I'm not really sure, unless I'm in Southern California, so it's pretty democratic here, or at least my little corner of it is. Uh, but when the Republicans have to go out and try to get reelected. I mean, what are they? What's their selling point? I don't know that they have any. And guys, the more it's just a terribly, terribly unstable situation. And like I said, once people start selling your bonds, I mean that's like the kiss of death. That's not. I mean, you can't have that because don't forget when people are selling your bonds, how do you get buyers back? You offer them a higher interest rate, so it keeps costing you more and more money to service your debt. And like I said, Trump's the one that, with his latest $4 trillion addition to the deficit, he is responsible single handedly for somewhere between 10 and 25% of the deficit, depending on whose figures you choose. And I'm going to tell you, to be responsible for $4 trillion worth of debt over the last couple of years, are you guys insane? Uh, I mean, you got to tell Trump no. And if he, has a temper tantrum and knocks down the Kennedy Center, then you know what, guys, elections have consequences. If you pull that lever for Trump, you help get us here. And the whole notion about how Trump says, "Oh, well, this is a hoax and that's a hoax, so you can't believe this, can't believe that." Uh, don't forget when he undermines things and says things that aren't true. Not only do they undermine his credibility, they undermine the credibility of the country. I mean, nobody trusts us, nobody believes us. And there's a reason for that. How about the recent Canada trade talk blow up? Lutnick wanted to sneak something at the last minute. And, this is like having a deal like ready to go. And, the parties are getting ready to, kind of pass the papers around and sign them. And Lutney goes, "Oops, wait a minute, I forgot. How about this?" And Canada's like, we can't play like this. We're Canadians and we're decent citizens of the world. We expect to deal in good faith and honor with our friends and neighbors. And this, the whole Trump presidency has just been a disaster. Uh, and the worst thing is, as Trump continue, and like I said, this is where the rubber kind of meets the road at some point. He may be hanging out with Natalie. Oh, you know what? Let me open the phone lines in case anybody's got a thought on the matter. And you know what? That would not be the program I want. So let's try to get the old Zoe program. There we go. Now we've got the phone lines open, and the number here is 949-629-3820. So if you agree, disagree, just have a something to say, vent, let us hear from you. Uh, so anyway, we've got Besant, playing just like, I mean, he's playing with the bond market, the world, and I mean, the treasury markets are what kind of runs the world. And Besant could just blow this up, through stupidity or Trump's willingness. See, at this point, like I said, the rubber's getting ready to meet the road, and Trump is clearly getting. I made a little joke about this. He's clearly getting. I don't know if he's getting harpooned or if he's doing the harpooning, but I would think it's more likely he's getting harpooned at this point. But anyway, so she keeps feeding him this imaginary world that does not exist, in which he is infallible. I mean, think about that. Infallible. When's the last time you heard that? And that's pretty much like, Jesus himself. And, could that be where he gets those insane AI generated images of him looking not unlike a certain savior to, like, 1.4 billion people around the world? I think Jesus is pretty historical, significant historical figure, and I'm not going to, I will respect his teachings and everything else. And like I said, I just don't think that I see that kind of stuff in Trump when he's such a virtuous Christian. And I had somebody call in a while back, and they were, sounded kind of young, maybe college age, and they were told me he was a Republican. I'm like, that's, glad to have you on, make your argument. We'll go. I don't, speak. So the guy tells me, and just kind of a 2 sentence thing that he's pro Trump, and I was like, well, why? And the guy says, well, because he's a Christian. I'm like, oh, well, let's see here. You mean Christian, like follower of Jesus Christ? And the guy goes, yeah. I said, huh, Jesus Christ. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm hardly a religious scholar, but unless I'm really badly mistaken, I think the stuff Jesus kind of said was like, oh, I don't know, maybe feed the hungry, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, shelter the homeless. I mean, I just don't see oh, I'm going to decrease your food stamp benefits by, X% or take it away. Oh, and by the way, remember that nice little health clinic down the road from you so you didn't have to drive, 180 miles to the nearest hospital? Well, that's closed too. It's just kind of a budget cut. And do let's not forget where all this budget cut money went. Yes, sir, you are correct. It went to tax cuts. And I mean, and these are the guys that claim Trump is just a financial genius. I'm like, spare me. So anyway, but let's kind of chat about the biggest Trump dumpster fire from whence everything else flows. And the biggest Trump dumpster fire of the day, isn't that sad? He's got like, a different dumpster fire every day. But the dumpster fire, I guess, oh, what would the Iranians call it? The mother of all dumpster fires. The mother of all dumpster fires, as of now, is Iran. You know, I say this almost every time. I still cannot get beyond the bombing of the girls' school. I mean, that's just how do you think that pilot or whoever directed that bomb, how do you think that person felt? And like it was our tomahawk, indisputable. When cornered about it, the president says, "Well, I think it was Iran's tomahawk, and lots of people have tomahawks." And when you look at you lying sob, that's not true. And this is what reporters need to start doing. But sir, that's not true. And then just nail them. And like I say, if he melts down, it's because he was a psychotic individual to begin with. And I have no idea if I have no idea if anything would matter at this point. But my God, uh, but I think if enough people said, "But sir, that's not true," that eventually somebody there's gonna be like the little chips, and finally somebody's gonna break through. And for a split second, I don't expect it to last very long. He's going to realize that everybody's right and he's been wrong all this time. He has been wrong about everything from tariff being the panacea for all that ails the states and the immigrant stuff, and he's just been wrong. We've lost valuable employees, not to mention friends, neighbors, and downright citizens that have been kidnapped off the streets of the United States. Now, guys, you wouldn't think twice if you heard about somebody in Venezuela, some American tourists, and I don't know what you would call them, the carpentieri, I guess, come and like put a bag over his head and take him away. He's never heard from him again. Well, I mean, that's not supposed to be here, and it's just it's got to stop. So anyway, so now what do we have? We've got Trump deciding, and this guy went to or claims he went to Wharton at UPenn, right? Ivy League school, great B school, um, so on and so forth. And the guy thinks of an economic solution later, starting the war. I mean, guys, you're telling me the guy's a genius and he went to Wharton. the economic solution was number two. I mean, and that tells me that much like Donald Trump, a lot of Donald Trump is number two, if you know what I mean. Uh, it's funny. The other day, I did a little parody based on the Beatles. Was it Octopus's Garden? But instead of Octopus's Garden, instead of I'd like to sleep under the sea, it was something like I'd like to pee where Donald Trump sleeps. My 32 fluid ounce number one. But this case is just pure number two. And yeah, the truth of the matter is he doesn't even deserve to be on the ballot, much less to come in number two. Losing would be too good for Donald Trump. And as I'm sure everybody is really scared about the election. And why is it not appropriate at some point to file a legal brief and ask for some prospective relief and to enjoin any election related acts by the president? Just no, you can't. You have no role in it. The Constitution doesn't give them a role. So why can't the judges say don't do anything? And now that's if the plaintiffs can show enough reason that this should be done. But I swear I don't. We got to do something. And Paul Krugman is always kind of an interesting guy, New York Times guy. Nobel Prize winner, the whole deal, economics. And Krugman's opinion is that this much damage to the United States could not have been done by accident. That Trump is running the boat so hard and so fast up on the rocks, where the rocks are marked, that it's got to be just a wanton act of destruction. And when his Krugman's theory as to why, that's Trump hates the U.S. Our biggest offense to Trump, why he really hates us, because we don't love him and we don't roll over and do whatever he wants. And if he can't get people to roll over and do whatever he wants, then he's just going to burn the place down. And I want to, this debt deal is just getting huge. It's not. That's a misstatement. It's been huge. What it's getting is urgent. And we've got to deal with this thing. And the most expeditious thing to do would be to roll back the Trump tax cuts. But it's kind of already spent, isn't it, Donald? In this, and Krugman pointed out that while all this is going on in the world, Trump's planning another project or what he can put his name on or something. And so now that they made him take his name off the Kennedy Center, he wants to just tear it down. And, where the East Wing used to be, just torn down and become a hole in the ground. That reflecting pool, kind of like another hole in the ground. You get my drift. And it's just the wreckage that he leaves behind in this self-deluded state. And like I said, the best public service that we can provide is to keep making the point, but, sir, that's not true. And it's kind of a parallel with that. I usually try to mention this at least once a broadcast. And that is that Trump and by extension the Republicans have what I can nicely call a credibility problem. Their word cannot be believed. Does anybody believe Besson when he gets up there and talk about what he's doing in the bond market? Or how about when Besson gets up there to strongly suggest that China obey the U.S. Sanctions against Russia? What are the China has us. China has us the same place Iran has us. And in case you didn't know how Iran has us, I will let you know right now.
Trump can't see your face after the facts. Iran's got us by the old nutsack. His policies put the world on fire. Can't count anything, his brain is fried. Psycho Donald, qu'est-ce que c'est? Fa, 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 better. Run, 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 run away. Psycho Donald, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Did you hear that applause? My God, well, you guys are just too much. Thanks. Okay. We've had about as much fun with that as we're gonna have right now. But you can see that if Iran's got a spotty hole in that sack, China's really got a spotty hole in that sack. Okay, and this is even though you know uh, China wouldn't have drawn like the worst sanctions. They're still not happy about this, and you can rest assured that it's not going to bother China one bit in the world. So anyway, yeah, how can say they're not? The relationship is not exactly smooth there. And of course, Beijing's. And did you guys know Beijing was Peking until they renamed it? Anyway, Beijing threatens to strike back if our sanctions on Iran hit China's l- l- interest. How about that? And what was the other headline from and it's coincidental because the headline on the New York Times and the China and the Financial Times were both different takes on China. And like I said, the New York Times is China warns U.S. over toughening of Iran penalties. I think that's what I wrote. Anyway, and let's contrast that with the Financial Times. Beijing threatens to strike back if U.S. sanctions on Iran hit China's interest. Which, and I don't, I always give the New York Times the benefit of the doubt, but the Financial Times is, really spot on too. So at any rate, I wouldn't worry so much about the fact that they, are worded differently, as much as they both said, address the same general topic on the front pages of their international newspapers. That's how important this is. I mean, that's exactly how important this is. And I mean, and Besson's just, he's just all necessary measures are on standby. Please, and I'm gonna tell you, you got to really like China's legalistic approach. That the unilateral sanctions are illegal. They have no basis in international law or the UN Security Council. And but you know what? Let's just say that Trump decides to get tough with President Xi because nobody's tougher on China than what's his name, that orange tinged Cheeto dusted subhuman creature. Uh, so anyway, let's see here. If we upset China, what could they do to kind of get our attention and suggest to us in the nicest way possible that that was a really bad idea? And I say I'm hardly a genius with this kind of stuff, even though one of my cousins, distant cousin, was Chairman Mao's interpreter for God knows how many years. So we're not without some worldview here. Uh, but let's say, what if Xi says, Don, why don't you go take a long walk off a short pier, pal? You keep these sanctions up, and oh, by the way, we just cut off your supply of rare earth minerals. And at that point, Trump becomes President Poopy Pants or Poop in Pants, because if China does that, it's game, set, and match. So you see, it's not Trump is such a it has such a nuisance, a nuanced way of looking at things that he cannot make these distinctions. That he might be unpowerful, less powerful than he thinks. He might not be as well loved as good old Nat tells him, and kind of makes you think about Nat on my shoulder. And oh, did I tell you guys that my anti-Trump song of the day on Instagram was based on what was it? Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. And Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs did this thing called Willy Billy. And it was, wasn't much, like musical genius or anything. It started out something like Hattie told Maddie, so on and so forth. So we did it that Natalie told Donald, I want to harpoon you. Get it? Harp, like Natalie Harp and harpoon. I want to harpoon you. And you can only assume that, like, if Natalie harpoons you, you probably know you've been harpooned. So, who's to say? Anyway, s- that's those things are on the front pages of major newspapers, and I say, what's the best thing to do? We need the entire world, which was what was so great about the status quo before Trump. There were commercial transactions between countries, and when countries are trading and prospering, they really don't have time to fight. And I know not everyone's happy, uh, but I would tell you, Joe Biden was just a decent guy, and we had the COVID epidemic, which kind of increased the deficit on its own, but nothing like Trump has done just on a whim. And like I said, that's what we have now is government by whim, and like I say, it's just sad that such a really fine country with such really fine people elected such an idiot who proceeds to destroy the thing. I mean, let's say Trump actually, uh, or I don't know how to put this, because the Republicans are more than likely to lose. But let's say the Republicans actually recognize their loss and get out. Uh, it's not exactly like you can hold Trump accountable because you get a Department of Justice that's just been, decimated. And every agency is like that. He decimated and stole every dime he could. And if you, I mean, how this isn't perfectly obvious, I just can't imagine. And let's only hope there's enough. And what I really want to know too, and I can tell you when it started, but I can't tell you how it got to this point. And what I want to know is, let's assume Republicans are more than decent people. Let's assume they're salt of the earth and just pious as can be. When exactly did you guys become okay with cheating to win? I mean, when did your integrity go? More or less. I don't need to, you can tie it to Trump's assent if you like. But, tell me how this works. Tell me how, and like I said, how anybody could, after January 6th enough? I mean, did he really have to do anything else to be disqualified? And you guys just, you don't speak up. And you have guys like Mitch McConnell who stole a Supreme Court seat. I mean, the seat belongs to the sitting president, no matter what the deal is. If he's the president, then it's his guy, and he gets a hearing. And McConnell just says, "Well, no, it's too close to the election, and we're not going to do it." Well, bite me. That's not how it's laid out. If you have if you're charged with the obligation to advise and consent on nominations, then you have an obligation to advise and consent in a timely manner, not when it's just like convenient. And that convenient thing wore a little thin with Mike Johnson when he swore in the Republican winners really early, but the Grijalva from Texas, Adelita, I think his name is, she took her father's seat, and she had to wait months. And this kind of double standard stuff is just going to be really bad when it comes to payback time. And Democrats really don't want to do that because I mean, you just deliberately destroyed the country by enabling the pursuit of goals that, frankly, were just stupid. I mean, tariffs instead of income taxes. don't you guys think there's a reason nobody else does this? And that maybe the genius from Wharton might not be like a genius. And and I'm gonna tell you, as far as economists go, I think the two most laughable ones are Art Laffer, who gave us the Laffer curve. That's a stroke of genius, and Peter Navarro, who's just an idiot. Um, I sadly they both have ties to Southern California, at least ties to Southern California. I got invited to this investment banking conference down at a really nice place, and as I'm sitting there, and I'd never been to one of these things before, and as I'm sitting there in the lobby, and I see this is a really nice place. This guy sits down next to me and starts chatting and says, "Hi, I'm Art. Hi, I'm Norman," so on and so forth. So he chat a little bit, and eventually tells me it's Art Laffer. And of course, I'm like, you know, you witch doctor of an economist, you. I mean, if two people are consistently wrong, it's Navarro and Laffer. It's just so ironic that it's the Laffer curve. Um, but anyway, I digress. Let's kind of get back to stuff that really matters. And like I said, the Iran deal is just overshadowing almost everything. Canada's a close second, but it's the Iran deal that kind of put everything else in play, like oil prices, like inflation, like like death and destruction. And there was no, like, and the guy comes up with the economic solution after the bombing. Uh, uh, please, God, tell me how that vaguely resembles genius. I mean, I don't know. To me, that kind of strongly resembles stupid. But again, give us a call, 949-629-3820. We'd love to hear. If you could point out the hidden genius in this, God knows I'd be grateful to you. Okay, and since we're talking about Iran and my he can't. I mean, I don't know about this guy. I think I've come up with a bunch of nicknames. I don't really know how it's going to go. How about Pretty Boy, Pistol Pete, Kegseth? Get it, Kegseth? Pistol, Pretty Boy, Pistol Pete, Kegseth purged top officers from the military. When? Like maybe after we started firing in Iran? I mean, because of some, you can rest assured as a minor, it was a disagreement, but Keg Seth Brooks, no dissent, and don't forget the reason we got Keg Seth as the Secretary of War. Oh, you retard! I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean. Uh, the Department of War we got here uh, because the guy looked good on TV and he would kiss Trump's behind. And you got to remember, when you don't hire competent people, you don't hire competent people. When you don't hire capable people, you don't hire capable people. Uh, so in Trump's cabinet, we have just incapability on top of incapability, with the exception of the capability of kissing a behind that belongs to Donald J. Trump. And you know what? Next time he kisses behind, do me a favor. Tell me like when the orange starts and the other stuff stops. I mean, if you guys are gonna get close enough to kiss his behind, we kind of like a little evidence of that because we haven't seen you kiss a lot of his behind lately. So get on with it, pal. And and how about this? Uh, going over to the Ukraine in Kiev. Guys, you gotta. God knows if I ever had to retreat from the United States, it would be to a British protectorate of some sort. I'm not really sure if that would, where that exactly that would be. But on some level, the British still get it. I mean, they're standing. They supplied Ukraine with drones and drone material, and Russia's come out and threatened them, like, don't give them weapons, or else we'll consider you part of the war. And Britain's like, well, f you, pal. Yeah, and I think the underlying reality is that 4 years into this thing, and we still don't have a winner despite the gross mismatch of resources. And like I said, David might not beat Goliath very often, but it's possible that he could beat Goliath, and that's exactly what's going on in Ukraine. And I think Ukraine has the same mindset as Israel, if you can believe that. And I think, there was a quote from, I think, an Israeli prime premier, Golda Meir, who said something like, "The reason we fight so hard is we have no place to go." And the Ukrainians are the same deal. Where they're going to go? Russia. That's kind of the object of the resistance. So you can't, you just can't conquer people anymore. And just like Trump should have, like Trump was told, and that would be the case in Iran. I mean, our guys told him. We told him. We told him. We told him. And what's he do? He listens to his gut. And when you listen to your gut for a decision, and there's a whole story about the judges and gastronomic justice. If you have your guilty client, you got to bring him before the judge in the morning. You really hope the judge had a good breakfast, or in the afternoon. You don't want lunch to be like sleepy time material. You want it to be enough of the judge to pay attention, but maybe not a whole lot of attention. Uh, just a minor thought on that. And something, I hate to see wanton death and destruction, and I don't really care what anybody's religion is. I like to advocate peaceful ones, and I think that some semblance of respect for each other's religion is the original intent of the colonials when they came here. Don't forget, it was all about religious freedom and freedom of the press and all that, and not having to ask permission before you printed something in your paper. Uh, it wasn't about the possibility of committing an offense and being tried in the middle of the night and then never seen again. Uh, so my point is that when Israel does things like smashes a and let me rephrase that. If a far right Israeli settler nut, and these guys are truly nutcases. I mean, they are. There's just no dispute. And see, these guys take the Bible seriously, and they, if the world, if this is the Jewish year 5,800, I don't know, 33, then the earth is exactly 5,833 years old because there was nothing before this. And, like, you're insane. And they are, but you know what they are? They're insane with political power. And then they get back to our problems in DC. And that is exactly our problem. Democrats have no power in DC. And like I said, don't think it's going to turn in on a dime, assuming things turn out favorably for Democrats in November. We're gonna, it's, what it is. Trump got the rental car, drove the living daylights out of it, brought it back in with four tires and tons of dents, and throws the keys to the next Democrat president. That's what it's going to be like. Uh, and and how do you, how do you deal with people like that? Uh, the whole, money on the presidency, the kids buy money, buy into defense startups that just so happen to wind up getting government contracts. Guys, doesn't the corruption issue do anything for you? Corruption. Think about it. This is corruption. Just out in public. This isn't like the backroom deal. This is Trump, making $2 billion and then telling you about it. And how has he gotten away with that? Because the Republicans did not play sheriff. They folded. They didn't. You know what? They just acted unconstitutionally. Because they certainly didn't act constitutionally to let this stuff go. But like I say, when you had these far right Israeli settlers just causing wanton destruction and killing and taking people's property, I mean, I think that's just universally wrong. And yeah, as far as some long term solution, I don't have it. I mean, even though I will offer this much, I do think that if the Palestinian, if there was an Arab Gandhi somewhere in the world, and the Arab Gandhi convinces Hamas to genuinely lay down the guns and just dedicate themselves to a peaceful, uh, peacetime economic model, there is absolutely no doubt with manufacturing and all this stuff. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Israel would help you create that economy. I mean, they just want to live in peace too. See, there's clearly a dispute as to property, but that may just be eternal. Since we are dealing with religions and all that, and yeah, the Israeli settlers are just insane. There's no doubt in my mind that Israel has the territorial rights for this. There's no doubt in my mind that when you massacre, I don't know, 1,600 citizens of a country that was recently the subject of an attempted genocide, I think that you can reasonably expect an overwhelming response. I mean, there's no and why else would they do this? The Palestinians just took cruelty in the rape and the murder and the maiming and the burning, and you know it never occurred to Israel to be an attack like that. And if it did occur, it you know fell through the Netanyahu cracks. Sorry guys, that old Shirley's bagel with the cream cheese spread made me a little thirsty here. So let's see what else we got. Oh, so the Times goes on, the New York Times that is, and one of their editorials is the least bad option to open the Strait of Hormuz. And I think Hormuz was some god or some spirit, something or other. Anyway, so how about this? You want Strait of Hormuz open? Just pay a transit fee and go. Iran will not shoot you if you pay them. And, is that rewarding them? Clearly. But, Trump he messed up. When he starts passing the buck and all that, when you don't accept blame, you don't accept responsibility. And I think every reasonable human being knows that you're not a fully mature, functioning adult until you know how to accept responsibility for failure. It's just how it is. I don't. I'm not enough of a scholar to know the ins and outs. Um, but yeah, think about that. When you assign blame to anyone else, you are not accepting responsibility. And as when Trump says something, well, sir, that's just not true. And that's his attempt to evade responsibility, is to blame something else. And of course, Natalie Harpoon is there with an article to make him feel good. And you see, guys, that isn't that going to be the ultimate deal? Is she's just going to stuff him with so many positive vibes, I guess, that he is really going to be unprepared for a blue tsunami. And by the way, that calls for a corny observation, and the corny observation is that in November we will beat the Republicans so badly they'll be screaming for mommy. We promised them a blue wave, and they got a blue tsunami. Hey, like, it's hard to find something wrong with tsunami, isn't it? So anyway, that's kind of my thought on that. I have to kind of share those little rhymes. They just kind of make me feel good. And then there's another. This was really good. And I've thought about this, felt this way for a long time myself. And I think the guy was like Connor Lounsbury or something. I never noticed his name before. And his opinion was Democrats need to learn how to act. And what really means is how to make themselves better communicators to potential voters and how to just appeal to them, maybe aesthetically and not just intellectually. And I'm all for that. I actually am surprised, or I'd like to put together a bunch of actors just to teach lawyers how to act in the courtroom. How about that? Somehow I don't. I may be at the borderline of getting like disbarred or something, but yeah, don't you think we need a little more Perry Mason in the courtroom and a little less? I don't know. Um, I'll pick on the guy because he's just and not a very good choice for a California Attorney General. But Michael Gates is another another real piece of work. Uh, you know, Rob Bont is an awfully smart guy, and I'm fine with him. And okay, and now we start to get into the fun stuff, and this is from the Financial Times. And do you know what those corn farmers are doing in like Iowa and Nebraska? And, excuse me, the soybean farmers and the corn farmers and the cotton farmers. And do you know what these guys are doing? Any idea? Any calls from like Kansas or Nebraska? Anything? No. Okay. What they are doing is they're trying to count up the cost of Trump's trade wars. Uh, everybody agrees that not only is it the worst economic conditions in 40 years, thanks to certain economic policies, uh, but you've got high diesel, high fertilizer, and guess what? As if that's not enough, you've got interest on your debt and a drought. So yeah, those farmers, it looks like they're kind of coming up short in Trump's economy. It kind of looks like Trump really did close those Chinese markets. And see, no matter what he wants to do, he can't get away from China. If he, they have what we need, and I think that's one of his Greenland pitches. Oh, and that's another thing. I mean, I know America has acted imperially in the past, and I don't know if conquering the West is constitutes imperialism or if it has to be beyond your borders. Uh, but we generally don't like conquer countries and take them over by force. We usually don't kidnap their leaders. We usually don't blockade a poor island like Cuba that's running on fumes anyway and choke them off with no fuel, no oil. Uh, the no matter how bad things are, when you make them worse voluntarily, my granddad used to call that making your own hard luck. And when you make your own hard luck, there's just not, you know, not a whole lot of places to run to, especially when you won't admit the problem. When you won't admit the problem, you'll never fix the problem. And guys, things are they need to be fixed like now. I mean, this $40 trillion deficit, another bond scare. What if bonds spiked? I don't know, a full percentage point, 100 basis points. What if it goes up to 6.33, 6.5? Do you have any idea what that does to the interest payment on the debt? It's suicidal. And you guys let him add to this. You guys gave him another 10% on top of everything, and then bitching about Democrats' financial policies. You guys are just the ultimate hypocrites, and sooner we get you out of office, the better. And you know what? Just because, oh, and I came across something the other day. This is really great. A Trump-related business was going to offer low cost drones or something to the or low cost interceptors. That's right, low cost interceptors to the military. I'm like, what could go wrong? You got Trump offering stuff at a discount. I mean, he doesn't do what he steals enough anyway. He doesn't, he promises at a discount. Like, my God. And the world is so laughing. Honestly, I watched a little DW24 and a little France 24, and of course the BBC. And, I MS now. I try to kind of keep up with what's going on. And trust me, guys, it's really bad. And I can only hope that, you will pay attention to me sooner rather than later. Please, this is let's see, this is gonna be a huge deal. Okay, and let's see. Yeah. Oh, and I just mentioned that I didn't know I was so on. How about this? The boss of a startup backed by Trump Jr. donated to Republicans just before getting able to get a contract. Huh? Who would have thought that would have happened? Can you believe they made a donation and Trump made money? How about that? They get the contract. Well, wonders never cease. And that I see NVIDIA worker charged with smuggling AI chips. That's a big help. Uh, but let's. There's a few more things I want to cover before we go, or before my voice goes, and and that's with AI in these data centers. And I think Jeff Bezos called Trump the AI president. And I said, yeah, I would believe that if AI stood for absent intelligence. I would think he's clearly the person absent intelligence who goes by his gut feel for things. He just knows what's right and what's wrong. I mean, is that not just the most? I mean, that's just destructive. It's just anyway. Uh, let's go into data centers for just a second because this is another big battle, and it's going to kill us or help us in November. And I read where one of these data center financial deals was something like $30 trillion, something about that. And the question is, how do you fund $30 trillion? And you get a lot of people together and pool money, and eventually you come up to $30 trillion. Uh, and the problem is, let's say you sell the bonds, and you either you can't build the data center, or the data center really starts messing up the local water environment, and people just uh, you know take matters into their own hands. I mean, this is a huge new asset class. I mean, stuff we were kind of getting used to billions and all that, and we thought it was wild when Bezos and Bill Gates and whoever else were worth hundreds of billions. But now you got Elon Musk with net worth of close to $1 trillion. I don't know how many economies, world economies, or country economies that's bigger than. But that seems pretty, like a lot of money for one person to control. And another thing, while we're talking about the sun, while we're talking about, I want to bring this up while we're kind of talking about this, and that's the billionaire one-time 5% tax. Uh, Guys, I mean, nobody likes having money taken away, and money on this scale is incalculable to the ordinary human being. We have no conception of what $300 million net worth represents. We just don't. We think we can imagine, but we just don't know. Uh, but like I said, when you have a net worth, when people's net worths get to that point, the income inequality is so stark that the better practice is usually to try to reduce the income inequality where possible. And of course, in this case, it's by taking 5% of a billionaire's net worth. And like I say, 5% doesn't seem like much to you and me, especially when when people go to church, don't give like tithings and all that. Uh, so I mean, and it's not an insignificant amount of money. And I know guys, and you know, I can only just kind of plead with you that we that and let's be honest about it, we need you. uh, we our government has made huge mistakes, and we have to have some money from somewhere. Honestly regret doing this, but that's why it's just a one-time uh, situation. And if you see your way clear to agree to this, super. Everybody comes out ahead. If not, the road is just gonna be rocky for a long period of time. And maybe I'm just stupid, but I think that anybody that understands America would say yes. I know what would that be like? $100 billion, but at that point, does it really matter? 5% more or less? I mean, it's all a book entry anyway. It's not like you sit there and have like have to come up with a pile of cash to pay for something. It's all paper and credit anyway. So it's all rather book entries. So, uh, guys, I don't. There's no real pitch for this. It's just a sincere position, sincere acceptance of responsibility, and asking for your help. And I think we are, on some level, our infrastructure did help. Our technological creativity helped. There's no doubt that being in California contributes to somebody's proximity to the tech markets. So, all things considered, I think you still have benefited tremendously. We're the first ones to, hey, we just aren't into this. Uh, we'll promise we won't do this again, whatever you want. But well, we need this. And I just can't imagine them saying no. Is that not, you remember John Kennedy? Who remembers John F. Kennedy? But Kennedy's big deal was ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Now, isn't that being patriotic? And like I said, I want to kind of contrast that in the last few minutes. And like I said, that's kind of being patriotic, stepping up to help your country, right? And it seems like not long ago, Donald Trump asked for a complete master list of U.S. spies. And now, usually, this is not the kind of thing that's ever written down in any, much less written down in any one place. And for this idiot, it's probably done in a Sharpie, on like a construction paper thing, like a toddler. Uh, so anyway, you, while he does this, uh, eh, I while he does this, the debt crisis just fiddles and fiddles and fiddles. Uh, but anyways, and Krugman's position is that things are going to get really bad, and if the California billionaires can save the state, I would like to argue that you have some sort of moral obligation to do so. Like I said, the cost is relatively trivial, and what do you say? Sometimes you just admit you're wrong, and isn't that always the best way to move ahead? And just think, when Trump is never wrong, he always does two things: blame somebody else and doesn't take responsibility. And I mean, I don't know. We've all had different childhood experiences growing up, uh, but somehow or other, the notion of responsibility and maturity and adult life behavior seems to be taught to just about everybody. For whatever reason, that kind of escaped our current. God, I hate calling him president. You have no idea how much I hate that. But anyway, so what happens? So I say that they're raising trillions of dollars to fund these data centers now. But what if people go like, well, we don't want to fund them anymore? Then what happens? Are we completely out of the game? Who funds these things? And if we're out of the game, guess what? China has roared ahead, and that's the conundrum here is that Trump is deliberately taking actions that help our enemies. And like I say, Krugman's position is that Trump hates America. And the reason he hates every American is because every American doesn't love him and won't bow down to him and, kisses, orange, whatever it might be. Oh, guys. Well, listen, sorry about that, but as usual, my voice starting to go. Friday, we have JJ Galvez, who's running for State Assembly, District 71. I think that's like Silverado Canyon. And we're also looking forward to having congressional candidate from Congressional District 20, and that would be Sandra Van Scholar. And we've been chatting with her campaign, and we expect to have her on fairly soon. And also, Amy Stevens is going to be joining us. Let's see, Friday is JJ Galvez, and I'm going to close the way I started with a big shout out to David Petty in Mission Viejo, Laguna Niguel area. Uh, and that's elect ELECT David DAVID Petty, as in Richard, Kyle, Adam, the whole Petty family. And like I said, the big deal, David's unique offer or asset is a cybersecurity background at a time when public utilities are getting hacked. I mean, I hope I don't have to, I mean, I hope not being like too terribly obvious here, but I do think that that's a really unique opportunity. And if you guys don't capitalize on it, and you get hit, what can we say? Nobody likes saying, I told you so. So act preventatively, and elect David Petty to school board. And I say we'll look forward to chatting with JJ on Friday, and Sandra Van Scholar and Amy Stevens should be next week. So, guys, you know what we always say about this time? Because I can't really help myself. We usually say something like, Roger, welcome over